Okay. Okay. I first became acquainted with Eve Brandstein when I was a struggling young actress, and she was a very powerful casting director. Eve spent 10 years working with Norman Lear and cast many of his hit shows in the 80s, as well as a slew of other TV shows and films, including a couple of little ones like The Sure Thing and This Is Spinal Tap. How cool is she? That was not in the bio she sent me, but I have to tell you that. Okay, now I'll get to the real thing. She's been a major studio executive, a producer, a director, a writer, creator, a casting director. She's an educator, a workshop facilitator who has led writing and performance groups. Her poetry has appeared in various publications, and she is one of the organizers of Poetry in Motion and the publishers of the Hollywood Review, an anthology of LA poets. She is also a journalist and writer whose first book is The Actor, A Practical Guide to a Professional Career. A few of us might need to check that book. As a journalist, although not Robert. As a journalist, her articles have appeared in national publications as well as websites where she has been a columnist as well as a feature contributor. She is also a marriage and family therapist. What the hell don't you do, woman? In private practice, and she is presently on the faculty of Columbia College Hollywood. She's a Renaissance woman. She's a fine artist as well. I've admired Eve's career from afar for a long time, and I'm thrilled to have her in my living room. Please welcome Eve Brandstein. Mike, you up.
I need help.
I didn't bring the book.
Almost.
I'm so sorry. You know, here's the problem. I didn't bring the book. I have a whole thing about when your career isn't going so well, and yours is just doing fine. You know, I think I'm going to be disappointing to you guys because I'm not going to talk about show business, and I'm not going to read about show business. Well, maybe just a tiny bit. But I'm mostly going to share with you my true passions, even though I sounded like I was full of many, many opportunities that I've indulged in. But I have been a poet since I was a teenager and an artist. And my narrative is totally a contradiction or integrated somewhere along the way because I always wanted to create, I always wanted to be part of different things. But the poetry has always been a healing device, which is why I became a healer as well. A creative resource because in it is the imagination, because things are said in poetry that can't be said in other ways. I really feel that there are many forms. There's something about abstraction in poetry that is really resonant with my soul, and I feel like we can go someplace on that journey. So, and some of it allows you to be quite humorous, but I have been through a lot in my life, and I'm going to share just a few moments in like a verse sense. And I'll start with something that actually touches on an area which is a little bit like my name dropping has to get out of the way, so I will name drop a little on this poem, if you will. It's called Why I Preferred Audrey Hepburn to Elizabeth Taylor, and that's about it in terms of name dropping. During the early 60s, before I got hooked on rock and roll and the alternative possibility of living outside the steady flow, I was into movie magazines, stories of true love, sensational revealings of the lives of the young and up-and-coming sexy starlets. Those were the pumped-up last days of Marilyn and Jane. Or scandalous Ingrid, or cute California blondes named Connie or Yvette standing next to dark, sultry Italian babes like Gina and Sophia. There was the too-round Violet Elizabeth, her sweet voice stuck in child star time warp. But above all them was Audrey. Audrey Hepburn was all silhouette, graceful and wide-eyed. She had style. Liz was so front page you could almost smell the whiskey her husbands drank. While Audrey belonged on the fashion and society pages. When there was a slight two-issue deal about her divorce and remarriage, and she went into a low profile, she disappeared to be a mother and a wife. Around that time, Audrey and her rail-thin beauty vanished. Twiggy was the rage, and I nearly starved to death. I weighed about 105 pounds and was living on an apple a day. I was on my way uptown when I fainted on a subway station. I was revived and taken home where my mother forced me to eat. I traded my boyish no-curve look in for hips and sweet chocolate things. I had sex for the first time that spring and have been on a diet ever since. But not Audrey. But Audrey Hepburn never. But Audrey Hepburn never had to be on a diet. And that's kind of why I preferred her. So that's number one on the journey. Now from that, I go to something a little more relevant to my time in life now. I'm going through a lot of changes. This is that era that I heard about. But, you know, I feel like I'm part of that generation that's experiencing this time in life for the first time in a certain way, because I grew up in the 70s during the women's lib movement, and, you know, things have changed. And we as women are much more productive than we were, and we have to face certain realities. And I'm in that kind of middle place between having been just recently the caretaker to my elderly mother and just launching my son off to be a man. So I'm going to read a little piece about something. It's a little downer, but it's good. It'll help you get through some of the stuff maybe you are experiencing. It's called My Mother's Heart Attack at 94. It started with a cough and became breathless and then beating, and then the heart stopped. Not for long, not long enough. The damage the size of a quarter, a little piece, but just enough to change the way life was going, even if it was going nowhere. If you're planning the future, are you living it at all? Even if you meditate or pray, the body exists in time. What happens after is unknown. The cough persistent, the lungs to fill with foam, the waves of fear drowning out reason as air thins, the narrow voice, the hall with neon, profiles waving and memories calling, sidelines of evil make no recall. The closets and the drawers, I need cleaning, she says to me. Enough cause and fear to stay alive. As a witness to near suffocation, you want to stop the choking. You consider being a merciful participant. You catch your worst thoughts, counting slowly backwards, reciting ancient blessings and curses in language vaguely known, speaking to Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, Jehovah, Jesus. The whole salvation redemption crew, whoever has the power, is called. Forget about tea and sympathy. I want to drink. I want to have sex. I want pills, greasy food, creamy calories, sugar, wheat, even a cigarette, please. I want memory to stop. Resentment, the poison of guilt. Whiskey, please. Anything that will stop the sorrow. Watching her struggle, not knowing which way to go. When the time came, it was right, even if it never feels right. One more minute, wait, I cry. Driving up La Cienega Boulevard towards the hospital, code blue in the background. Keep her life to a minimum, I'd say, not to harm her anymore. Arriving moments before pronouncement, she waited for me to say goodbye. Before she let go, her soft hands and pink skin, warm with sweat, her breath full and slow, pulse descending. I whisper, it's okay. You can go, you can go. The cold ground, the snow and ice, the brown dirt in drifts, the plain wood casket, the Star of David center top, the slow slide into the ground, the prayers, the shovel, building a new home, scooping the earth till the star disappears, scoop by scoop, filling the hole, which will never be filled, as space is never empty but waiting, waiting, and letting go.